Their candidate for mayor is Gerard Neugebauer, and he joins us live in the studio here on 1590 WAKR News Talk Sports. And Gerard, thanks for accepting the invitation to come on in. And I guess, first of all, your background and how it could serve you well as mayor of Greene.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks for having me on. My background, I grew up in Akron, Firestone Park area. I was educated at the University of Akron, have degrees in civil engineering. I have a master's degree in business administration. When my wife and I first married, right after college, we moved to Greene. We selected Greene as the community we wanted to live in. Moved to Greene. I've been active in that community for a long time. The last 4 years serving on Greene City Council, but my experience before that involved 8 years on our Planning and Zoning Commission and a couple years on our Design Review Board, as well as community activities, including coaching soccer and being involved in many different ways.
How do you see the city of Greene right now?
How do I see the city of Greene? I see it as I did then. I see it as a great place to live. Greene has an incredible advantage of having Interstate 77 run through, bisect the city. It brought a lot of people to Greene over the years. It's a great place to raise a family, a great place to live. Excellent schools. Those are all the things that attracted me to Greene, and I think it's just gotten better over the years.
Yeah, and again, I don't live in Greene, but for me, looking at it, making many trips there, the one thing that stands out to me right now, and I think under Mayor Norton's leadership, is really taking it to a full-fledged city atmosphere. And I mean by that is they've always had the businesses there, not always, but certainly in the last 15 years or so. But now it's starting to formulate into a city with the parks and the expansion and that type of thing. Is it a city in transition, or how would you categorize it?
I think it's a city in transition. It was a great place to live, and everybody who lives in Greene just loves to live there and be there. I think the businesses, some were there. I think a lot have followed, and Mayor Norton's done a good job of bringing some new businesses to Greene. And I think those businesses have supported our residents and given us an opportunity to shop in Greene, go to the restaurants there, and do things in our community instead of leaving to go to Akron or other communities. So I think that's really been the improvement over the last 8 years under Norton.
Is there anything that has been done or currently being done that makes you shake a little bit and say, hey, we got to do things a little bit differently for the future of Greene?
Yeah, there's a few things. I think that the development has created some quality of life issues for our residents, and those are things that I want to tackle. My background as a civil engineer, I do these types of projects all the time. I think one of the critical things is the traffic there at Maslin Road at I-77. We need to move that traffic along. Once you get out of that immediate area, it lightens up. But that area in particular needs to be addressed. I think other infrastructure needs is stormwater. We've been reacting to stormwater for quite some time. I have a plan to address it. Have a comprehensive long-range plan. So we're taking care of the problems before we have the flooding, and I think that's important. And the last item I think is our residential streets. I think they've been neglected a little bit. In my term on council, we've instituted a plan, and we are now spending the right amount of money to improve those streets. But it's going to take several years to catch up with some of those streets, and I think it's very important to our residents.
You mentioned you have a plan pertaining to water and such. I'm not asking you to go line by line to with a plan, but overview of some of the ideas that you have for the future of the city.
Yeah, it's a comprehensive problem, stormwater. It's easy to say, put in a bigger pipe and get rid of the water. But the reality is that water moves downstream and floods somebody else. And so what you have to study the entire system in the city and determine how to hold water and how to let it flow in a manner that represents what happened 40 years ago. See, the development has created this influx of water into the system that floods. And, not always in Greene. We do have flooding in Greene, but it also floods people in other communities, and we need to be responsible within our borders to help everybody.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you look at cities' growth, it's kind of riding that picket fence a little bit on when is enough growth, when is there not, when is the development, when do you need to tear down buildings and when you don't. And I know that's come up before council and in the city the last year or so with a couple of old schoolhouses that they wanted to move or tear down buildings. That's a touchy subject because you like the history of your city. On the other side, there's growth going on. How do you look at your city and that particular item, Gerard?
Well, in the schools, we're at a plateau here. We're not really growing now. We're pretty static. it's really come down to a fiscal responsibility. It becomes so expensive to maintain these old schools, and so there's just a quality of life for the students, for the resident. The educational experience is enhanced with some of the newer infrastructure, and some of these old buildings they're just tired, and they just needed to be retired from our system. So, that's a school system issue. From our infrastructure is pretty new. We don't have this legacy infrastructure that you have in some of the older communities. We don't have a central downtown where you have expensive. We don't have combined sewer problems. So we really have a great situation in Greene. We can be very fiscally responsible because we're not forced to do these things that other communities have been burdened with.
Yeah, everything's pretty new. Is it ready for the growth that you have going on now and projected on down the line?
Well, absolutely. We have great potential. We have all kinds of opportunities. We have 140 acres that we just opened up at Global Gateway to bring businesses in, and this is businesses away from our residential area. So this is prime growth area that doesn't impact our residents. The traffic issue needs to be solved, and we will be focusing on that's my number one priority is getting that traffic solved there at Massillon 77. So our residents don't feel the burden of this growth. But we have a lot of potential growth. The Massillon Road corridor continues to improve. We have a project there on Massillon Road just north of I-77, which will really bring the quality of that road up to current standards. It'll provide exceptional opportunities for businesses to locate there in that corridor as well.
With so much of the city being relatively new, and I know that traffic situation in that corridor pretty well. I mean, is service roads, is that an idea that you could put in with everything so new? How do you alleviate some of that congestion there?
Well, I think what we need to do is just look at the problem and take it to a solution. We have plenty of lanes. I don't see us building more lanes with the exception of perhaps a turn lane to get onto Bettler Road. As you know, FedEx is on Bettler Road as well as the high school. A lot of offices are there. A lot of medical facilities are there. To me, that's a very short, not terribly expensive way to help relieve that. I don't necessarily believe in extra pavement. I believe in systems of monitoring traffic and moving traffic are more critical to relieving that than just building more pavement.
That's that engineering background.
There you go.
With us in studio is Gerard Neugebauer. He is candidate for the mayor's seat in the city of Greene. Gerard, let me ask you this. A lot has been talked about this Nexus pipeline. I know the mayor's had numerous meetings. I don't know where you are in the city, but I know the residents of Greene not real happy about what is developed.
Well, Ray, I think it's important to state that this pipeline is important to the economic viability in Ohio. It's important to move these resources to where they're needed. However, the Nexus pipeline, I'm not fully convinced that it's needed. Certainly, routing the facility through the city of Greene doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think it was an easy way for them to develop the pipeline because they had an existing easement area through the center of Greene. But that route goes right through our schools, very highly dense residential neighborhoods, a lot of city parks. I think the danger factor is just too great. I'm pushing hard to get Nexus to move south. As mayor, I'm going to continue that fight. We're going to go right to the source through FERC and challenge the need for the project and the need to bring it through such a high residential area. I think the project is just bad for the community.
So far, the request from Greene and others is, it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, almost on deaf ears. Is that true?
Well, I would hope not. I mean, we have a federal process to handle this, and so if somebody said it falls on deaf ears, that would be very disappointing. The federal NEPA process is designed to protect resources in our community, and schools and parks are certainly those resources. Archaeological sites, wetlands, all those things are things that we're trying to protect through this process. So I believe in the system. I believe that we need to continue to work in the system and fight this, but I think it's something that we can do.
Where do you think, if you were to become mayor, Gerard, the next corridor of growth would be with Greene? Because you they're off the exit of Massillon there to the left, you've developed nice. On top of the hill, you've developed nice. Is it continuing to go closer to the airport where there is still land there? And, of course, the airport is there. Where do you see the next 3 to 5 years of development for your city?
Well, I see development coming up by the airport. As you know, that's a federal trade zone there. We have Global Gateway, which we've opened for 140 acres of development. I'm hoping that we'll attract businesses there because we made an investment there. The county assisted in the state also in that. So that's an area that would be great to have development. And I know the city currently is actively seeking people to fill that space, and I will continue that. I think naturally you're going to see development continue on Maslin Road, both directions from 77. Certainly after the north leg is completed here in a couple years, and the road is new and you have the capacity, you'll see development on that north leg. But you also see creep to the south. I don't see it being radically developed. I think it'll continue on a slow, gradual pace. And you have to remember, Arlington Road also has quite a few tracts of land there around 619 area that are still open for development. And so, we have a tremendous amount of potential. It's a great community. I think businesses are really attracted to us, and we have the advantage of having 77 accessible. One of the other things, Ray, that I'd like to point out is, Green developed because of I-77 corridor, and it brought people to Green easily and quickly. But I think the new corridor is going to be the internet. I think a lot of businesses are really looking for a strong fiber backbone to run their businesses. Certainly, the high tech firms with the good high tech jobs, the jobs that our students in our community are going to school for. And I'd like to bring that fiber network to our city to provide that backbone so we can attract those high tech jobs, those high paying jobs to our community.
You pleased with the city's arrangement with the Summit County Sheriff's Department?
Yeah, I am. I've studied it quite a bit. As you mentioned earlier, there was a substantial increase in the contract last year, and so that prompted me to study many different options for the sheriff. There are options to create our own police force and maybe merger with another police force. However, I don't believe those are right for Green. I studied them to see what our alternatives were and to be fiscally responsible. Right now, I feel that the sheriff's contract is the best thing that we can have. I think they provide a great service to us. I think it's a mutually beneficial contract because it helps the county sheriff stay strong, serving more people, and it also allows them to have resources that support the whole county. At any time in Green, we may have 17 deputies come into the city to help us. If we had our own police force, we wouldn't have that support. So I really like the sheriff's arrangement. I see myself continuing with the sheriff, and I think, but just as a fiscal conservative, I think we always need to study the options. The other thing I like about the sheriff is the independence. There's an independence of that department, so it's not like a small town police force where you kind of worry about, they know certain people and everything. I get a real sense that it's just a very professional force, and they really serve our citizens at a very high level.
Gerard Neugebauer with us in studio, candidate for the mayor of Green. Often we don't talk a whole lot of finances with Green. Yeah. Normally you guys are right in line and sitting well financially. But I'll go down this road with finances. Do you like the way the city has handled the dollars coming into the city's creativity and the use? You in good standing there?
Yeah, I think the city overall has done a good job. There's been if I've had objections to what's happened in Green and on council, it's been for fiscal reasons. So there's some areas that I think that we've maybe spent a little too much, and I think Central Park was one of those areas where I felt that we overdid it just a little bit because we have a lot of needs in our community to improve our parks, to provide the level of service that our citizens deserves, and Central Park takes away the funding, our ability to do that over the next few years. And so that was my objection there, was certainly a fiscal issue. And so those have been my objections, just trying to keep the city on track financially and making sure that we have the resources to do what our citizens need the most.
If you're elected mayor, what's number one on the list of to-do lists?
Well, infrastructure, as we talked about. So number one certainly is the Maslin Road traffic and the stormwater and our residential streets. I don't know if we touched on that briefly, but we have a plan in place, and I'm going to execute that plan to get our residential streets in place. Fiscal responsibility, as we talked about, certainly a major focus of mine with my background and my degree in finance. And public safety. I think in addition to our sheriff, we didn't talk about our fire department. We have a very highly trained, skilled fire department. I see continuing as an independent fire department, and I'll look at ways to reduce some response times. We have some areas of the city that have a little bit longer response times than we'd like to see. So we're gonna look at those and try to make sure that our citizens have a safe environment to raise their family, and our businesses have a place where they're secure and every.
Mr. Neugebauer?
Okay, I want to thank you again for the format. I think this was very well organized. I was able to talk to many of these students before the meeting, and they all have a place to go. They all know what they're doing, and it was very impressive. So Green Schools keeps pumping out great students. Just wanted a brief summary, some of the things that we talked about tonight. First of all, reiterate, I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, and what I'll do is I'll use that 30 years of professional experience to make the right decisions for Green. I have an MBA with a specialization in finance, and I'll use this financial expertise to lead an administration that's efficient and responsible with the taxpayers' dollars. I like to say that a city is much like a civil engineering project that just needs to be financed. I work on I manage multi-million-dollar engineering and construction projects focusing on public infrastructure. And certainly engineering and construction knowledge I will use in my capacity as mayor to relieve the traffic on congestion on Massillon Road, as I discussed, improve our residential streets, and develop that long-range stormwater solution that we've been looking for. I've directed IT departments in various engineering firms, and I want to use that knowledge to help build a high-speed fiber network in Green to support our local businesses. I'd also like to modernize the city's computers and resource management systems. Finally, I've managed teams, departments, and divisions within multi-office companies, and that experience leads me to lead the city and deliver high-quality services to our residents. You've heard all about me, and you know about me, but what I want you to know is that being mayor is in my heart. I love this community. I love the people of this community. I want to see this community grow and prosper. I pledge to you that when I'm elected as your mayor, I will give you my heart, I'll give you my soul and all my energy to keep Green a great place to live and raise a family. I respectfully ask for your vote. Let's build our community together.
Thank you, Mr. Neugebauer.
Thank you.